Hello everyone. My name is Mohit Sharma and my student ID is 100984179 and I'm a data analytics student at Durham College, and today I will discuss whistleblowing and leadership in Congo, Israel and Vietnam. And these are the three countries which I choose by my last three digits for the roll number. And in part one, I would like to say like in intro, I would like to say whistleblowing involves exposing unethical, illegal, or harmful activities such as fraud, corruption, human rights violation, or abuse of power. And whistleblowers can be employees, government officials, or journalists who report misconduct to authorities or the public. In part one, whistleblowers laws. First A, I would like to say whistleblower laws in Congo. Why is whistleblowing important in Congo? So, Congo has a history of corruption, political instability, and human rights violation. Whistleblowers risk threats, jail time, or exile when exposing corruption. Though whistleblowers laws exist, they are weak and rarely enforced. In Law 1, which was made in 2004, Anti-Corruption Law, the scope of this law covers corruption in government and business sectors. So the purpose of this law is encourages people to report bribery, fraud, and misuse of public resources, whereas the enforcement of this law handled by the National Anti-Corruption Commission, which we call CNLCC. So effectiveness of these laws are theoretically offers protection, but in reality, whistleblowers face serious threats. The second law, which I want to talk about, Public Sector Integrity Act, which was established in 2018. The scope of this law focuses on misconduct within the government workforce, the protection, including the claims to safeguard whistleblowers from rotational or termination, whereas the effective of this law is very limited due to political interference, fairness in corruption investigations. In part 2, 2A, the major whistleblower incidents. So in 2A, whistleblowing case in Congo. So I would like to talk about the oil corruption scandal. In the context of this whistleblowing case, so Congo's oil industry is the backbone of its economy, so generating the majority of national revenue. However, corruption is deeply embedded. So, with the official siphonering of large sums of money for personal gain. So, incident that was happened in whistleblowers exposed how millions of dollars from oil revenues were stolen by high-ranking officials. So, these coins meant by for public services and development were instead misallocated for luxury properties, offshore accounts, and lavish lifestyles. So there are some consequences for this case in Congo for oil corruption scandal. So those who spoke out faced severe retaliation, including death threats, imprisonment, and exile. So some whistleblowers mysteriously disappeared, highlighting the dangers of exposing corruption in Congo. That's why how the consequences being very bad including death threats and other else. So the outcome of this whistleblower case, despite international organizations urging accountability, the government has denied any wrongdoing. Corruption remains widespread, and which means they simply say the no significant reforms have been implemented to ensure transparency in the oil sector. So that all about the whistleblower incident in Congo oil corruption scandal. In part 3, section A, leadership profile in Congo. So leadership profile, I would like to talk about the Denis Sassou Nguesso, so the president of the Republic of the Congo. So the Denis Sassou Nguesso has been a leader of the Republic of the Congo for over 30 years. He is the one of the longest serving leaders in Africa. So, however, his leadership has faced serious criticisms. People often say he rules in any authorization way, and meaning he holds all the powers and does not let others have a say. So there are also many claims that he involved in corruption, and he has been accused of stealing public money or lots of things. So many people believe Naguso has used his position to make himself and his close friends very rich. So while most of the country stays poor, so there are some key leadership traits. The first one I would like to say vision. So the Nogiso says he wants to grow the economy, but most of the benefits go to him and his allies. So his government focuses on mainly on oil, but everyday citizens don't see the advantages of this oil wealth. So the country's resources benefit only a few people. So there are integrity, including there have been many accusations of corruption. He is said to have taken public money for himself, and several reports say he hides his wealth. Journalists and people who speak out against his actions often face harsh punishment, including being arrested or forced to leave the country. So there are some challenges. Authority. What is challenges authorities? So which means that rather than addressing the corruption in his government, Nogueso increases his power by silencing his opponents. So, which means he does not allow open debates or discussions. Whereas, say, no one can challenge him. People are afraid to speak against him, and because they might face serious consequences, so there are many challenges they face for in authority. So provides ethical guidance. Who provides ethical guidance like this kind of? Nugiso's government is not transparent, meaning it does not share much information with the public. He does not push for ethical reforms. Many government officials are in allies and his allies, so there's little chance for accountability or change. Whereas the Machiavellian leadership, Nagusa's leadership show a very high level of mechanisms, whereas the this means he uses clever, sometimes dishonest tactics to stay in power. For example, he changes the country and laws when they don't suit him. Silences anyone who oppose him, like, and controls the media to make sure he looks good. So, in conclusion of this case, I would like to say Neguso's leadership discourages people from speaking out against the government in Congo. Many are afraid to report corruption or criticize him because of the consequences they could face. So, because of the lack of the accountability, corruption continues to get worse under his rules. So, these are all are under this with like Denis Sassou Nguesso, president, and in Republican Congo. Continue in part 1, 1B, whistleblower laws in Israel. Compared to Congo, Israel has been better whistleblower protection laws. These laws have been crucial in uncovering government and corporate corruption. In Law 1, which was established in 1997, Protection of Employees Law. The scope of this law applies to employees in public and private sectors. So this law covers workers across various industries, whereas ensuring that whistleblowers in both government and private companies are legally recognized and protected when reporting wrongdoing. So the protection on in this law is prevents employers from firing or demoting whistleblowers. Employers are legally prohibited from taking retaliatory actions such as wrongful termination, demotion, or discrimination against employees who report illegal activities. The effect of this law is moderate despite legal safeguards. Whistleblowers often face workplace discrimination. So while the law provides protection, in reality, many whistleblowers still experience professional backlash, including job resignation and isolation and damage to their reputations. The law too, in which the state com- comptroller law, which was established in 2010 amendment. The scope of this law protects government employees who report misuse of public funds. So this law specifically safeguards civil servants who expose financial misconduct, bribery, or fraudulent activities with government institutions. The protection of this law some level of legal immunity. So whistleblowers under this law may be granted legal immunity in certain cases, shielding them from employees or related consequences when reporting corruption. The effects of these laws are basically stronger than in Congo, but some whistleblowers still face legal trouble, while Israel's law provide better protection compared to Congo. Some whistleblowers still encounter lawsuits and political pressure or social stigma or exposing corruption. In part 2, section B. So whistleblowing case in Israel. I'm going to talk about the Netanyahu corruption scandal. So in this case, the main context of this case is the Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's longest serving prime minister. So that prime minister was accused of serious corruption charges, including bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. So the allegations raised a concern about political integrity and abuse of power. That was the context. And the incident that was happened, the whistleblowers revealed that Netanyahu had also ties with wealthy business figures who provide luxury gifts and financial benefits in return. So these individuals allegedly received political favors such as regulatory advantages and media influence. So that was the incident happened with the Netanyahu. So the consequences of this case. So the whistleblowers who exposed that scandal and they faced the retaliation. So including legal threats, public smear, campaigns, and social pressure. So Netanyahu's supporters strongly defend him, so making it difficult for the whistleblowers to speak out freely. It was really hard. So these are the consequences on the whistleblowers. So the outcome of this case. So despite being indicated on corruption charges, Netanyahu has remained a dominant political figure in Israel, so which was unbeatable. But his ability to retain influence demonstrates how powerful leaders can navigate legal challenges and avoid significant consequences. In part 3, section B, so leadership profile Israel. So in this, I would like to say the leader Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. So I would start from the Benjamin Netanyahu is the longest serving Prime Minister of Israel, known for his strong stance on national security, economic growth, and international diplomacy. So Netanyahu has had a major impact on Israel's directions, whereas the leadership has been controversial because of multiple corruption allegations and legal cases related to bribery and fraud. So there are some key leadership traits I have: the vision, integrity, challenges authority, and provide ethical guidance, Machiavellian leadership. So I would like to start from the vision. So the Netanyahu focuses on growing Israel's economy, strengthening the military, and building relationships with other countries. Under his leadership, Israel has formed strong ties with nations, whereas the around wherever the whole world. However, within Israel, his policies have caused divisions. So, and not everyone agrees with his approach, but the integrity of this leadership, Netanyahu's, is often cautioned. So he has faced investigations for accepting expensive gifts and attempting to influence the media. So despite these corruption trials, he still maintained significant political power, which raises caution about accountability. So the what kind of challenges are in authority? So the Netanyahu has a history of challenging Israel's judiciary. So claiming that the legal system is based against him, like a bias against him, or he has also tried to weaken laws that could potentially hold him accountable for his actions, making it harder for critics to challenge his leadership. Uh, Provides ethical guidance. Many critics argue that Netanyahu does not set a good ethical example, especially given the corruption cases he has been involved in. So, however, his supporters see him a strong leader who is defending Israel's national interest, which leads to a complex debate about the ethical behavior. So, the Machiavellian leadership. Netanyahu leaderships can be described as a highly Machiavellian. So he is a strategic political survivor who uses alliances and media control to keep his power. So his ability to navigate Israel's political landscape and maintain influences. So despite the scandals surrounding him, shows his skills in playing of political games. In a conclusion, I would like to say that Netanyahu's leadership creates a complex environment for whistleblowers. While some corruption cases are exposed, but the powerful people are often able to avoid facing consequences. So, the media plays an important role in revealing political corruption in Israel, but the ability of those in power to manipulate public opinion and maintain control complicates the solution. So, that was all about the leadership profile of Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel with the key leaderships and in conclusion. In part 1, section C, whistleblowers laws in Vietnam. So Vietnam has a legal frameworks in place for whistleblowers protection, but strict government control over the media and judiciary makes exposing corruption risky. So simply thing is Vietnam has legal frameworks and although the protection and the exposing corruption risky, all involving in two key laws address whistleblowing. First one in 2018, law on anti-corruption. So this law applies to government agencies, businesses, and state-owned enterprises. So aiming to prevent and combat corruption. So however, its enforcement is weak. Many whistleblowers who report corruption face retaliation and including harassment, job loss, or even imprisonment. So the second laws, which include the laws on denunciation in 2018. So this law allows individuals to report misconduct anonymously, theoretically, and providing some level of protection. So, however, in practice, whistleblowers still experience significant retaliation, such as threats, legal actions, or social ostracizations. So, while the law offers a moderate protection, so the in this law, the law on denunciation, so these law allows individual to report misconduct, the theoretically and anonymously also. So these law also offer moderate protection. Fear of consequences discourages many from coming forward, and despite from that, so these legal provisions, the risk associated with the whistleblowing in Vietnam remained high due to remain government influence over investigate processes. In part 2, section C, whistleblowing case in Vietnam. So, whistleblowing case in Vietnam, I would like to talk about the journalist Trong Dai Nhat. So, the context which I'm going to talk about the Truong De Nath was a well-known Vietnamese journalist recognized for his bold reporting on government corruption. So his investigative work often exposed misconduct by high-ranking Communist Party officials, making him a target for authorities. So that was a context in which the journalist Truong De Nat was well known. So the incident happens. He uncovered major corruption scandals, including land fraud schemes, financial mismanagement, and media's censorship. So his reports revealed how government officials abused their power for personal gain while suppressing critical voices in the press. So that was the incident, and the consequences are really bad. So, in retaliation for his work, he was arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison on politically motivated charges. So, he was denied a fair trial, but highlighting Vietnam's strict control over the judiciary and its intolerance and of dissent. That's why he got arrested. So the outcome of this case is the Vietnam continues to impose harass restrictions on journalists. So limiting press freedom and silencing whistleblowers. The government's crackdown on critics so ensures that corruption remains hidden. So discouraging others from speaking out, that was really bad. So that was the case in Vietnam. In part 3, section C, leadership profile Vietnam. So, in this, I would like to talk about the leader Nguyen Phu Trong, the president and general secretary of Vietnam's Communist Party. So, Nguyen Phu Trong is the current leader of Vietnam, serving as both the president and general secretary of the Communist Party. He is known for leading and anti-corruption campaign, but his leadership has also been criticized and suppressing free speech and limiting political oppositions. So while he has overseen some high profile corruption trials, there are some concerns about human rights violations under his rule. So the key leadership traits, including vision, integrity, challenge authorities, and so on. I would like to start from vision. So the Nagyon Putrong's main focus is on maintaining stability and boosting economic growth in Vietnam. He has made anti-corruption a key part of his agenda. However, his government does not tolerate any political dissent or media freedom. So this means there is a little room for alternative voices in the country. So the integrity they faces the Thong uh, presents himself as a strong leader in the fight against corruption. However, many of his actions, like arresting political opponents, raise questions about his true intentions. So, the legal system often targets government critics uh, rather than focusing on ensuring transparency and justice for all. The challenges they face is in authority. So, the Nagyon Bothrong does not challenge authority within on communist party. Instead, he works to consolidate power within the party, making sure he and his allies stay in control. His leadership quality and his style, focusing on maintaining the existing system rather than challenging it. So provides a ethical guidance. Trong has launched several anti-corruption campaigns, but many people believe that these efforts are politically motivated. So instead of genuinely uh, addressing corruption, these campaigns are often seen as ways to target rivals or strengthen his position. So, this raises doubts about the ethical nature of his leadership. Machiavellian leadership. Nagion Phutrong's leadership shows moderate Machiavellian traits. He tightly controls any dissent while pushing for selective anti-corruption actions that benefit him, his party. So, whereas while he maintains strict control, he balances it with the action that might appear in reformative. So, but only in this case, only when they sever his interest, that will be a good leadership quality. So, in conclusion, I would like to say under his leadership quality, so whistleblowing is somewhat about allowed to be but only in very controlled situations. So, people who expose corruption or wrongdoing are only tolerated if they do not threaten in his power. So, anyone who dares to challenge powerful figures still faces severe consequences like imprisonment. In part 4, whistleblowing and leadership relationship. So, the big question is whistleblowing an act of leadership? So, now that we explored different leadership styles, let's connect everything. The big question is, can whistleblowing be considered a form of leadership? Some people believe that whistleblowing is a concurrences, or there are some act that reflects key leadership qualities. So it requires integrity, accountability, and willingness to take risk for greater goods. So others argue that whistleblowers don't hold formal leadership positions, whereas since they lack power of and authority, that they don't fit the traditional definition of a leader. So the key similarities between whistleblowers and leaders. So I would like to start from, like, even though whistleblowers may not be in leadership roles, they share many qualities with ethical leaders. So integrity and ethics. Great, great leaders and whistleblowers both stand up for what is right, even when it's difficult. So they act based on their principles, even if it means facing backlash. Accountability. Ethical leaders take responsibility for their actions just as whistleblowers expose wrongdoing to ensure organization remain accountable. So the courage they are want to do, both leaders and whistleblowers need bravery to face criticisms, challenges, and potential risk when making difficult decisions. So the key difference between whistleblowers and leaders. Despite these similarities, uh, there are also major differences. First, I would like to start from power and authority. So, leaders hold formal positions of power while whistleblowers often come from lower levels in an organization. They may not have the ability to change policies directly, but they can expose unethical actions, whereas support versus oppositions. So leaders usually have followers and a support system. In contrast, whistleblowers are often isolated, criticized, or even treated as a traitors for speaking out. So, which is totally different from power and authority as compared to support versus opposition. So, the final analysis, like, are whistleblowing and leadership the same? So I think so in many ways whistleblowing shares key traits with ethical leadership. It requires honesty, moral courage, and commitment to the truth for doing this whistleblowing shares and being a ethical leadership. But I think however it lacks formal authority and structured support, which are fundamental parts of the leadership. So these are the final analyses, including a strong leadership culture can reduce the need for whistleblowing because uh, ethical leaders promote transparency and accountability with within their organizations. Like in corruption, I would like to say corruption systems like Congo and Vietnam, whistleblowers take extreme risk when exposing corruption. Whereas, meanwhile, in countries like Israel, legal protections exist but are not always strong enough to prevent retaliation. So, my final thoughts about this all circumstances or the consequences of all this. At its core, whistleblowing is an act of courage and moral responsibility. In many ways, it mirrors leadership because it challenges wrongdoing and seeks to create positive change. However, true leadership should build systems where whistleblowing isn't necessary, so where transparency, integrity, and accountability are already in place. So that's all about this final thoughts. So I would like to, and I'm going to attach my references in my Word file. Thank you.